Welcome back to Giants Latest. We are continuing our history deep dive where we talk about the legendary New York Giants players that turned the franchise into what it is today. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all things Giants. Today we're going to talk about some of the tight ends because they have done some amazing work, and one of them we really have to talk about, and we're going to focus on him quite a bit, is Mark Bavaro, because not only did he help the Giants win 2 Super Bowls, but he was a guy who was on the team for only 6 years. And look, 6 years is not a short amount of time, but when you look at some other former and current Giants who have been on the team for a decade plus, 6 years seem kind of short. But during that time, he had an incredible career with the Giants. Like I said, he helped him win 2 Super Bowls, and he was just a legendary player, especially during that time period. He was with the Giants during the 86 and the 90 Super Bowls, which of course were iconic. And he talks a lot about how much he loved Bill Parcells and what an incredible coach he was and how he really helped him step outside of his shell and become the player that he ended up being in the NFL with the Giants. So he told a couple of really great stories that I wanted to talk about. And if anyone has any Mark Bavaro stories, please share them. I've been loving reading your comments about the Phil Simms and the Lawrence Taylor stories because they truly never get old. So one thing that I loved about Mark Bavaro was this story specifically. He said that when he came out of college and was drafted by the Giants, back then the whole draft wasn't televised. He was drafted in the 4th round. He said, I actually didn't even know that much about the Giants at the time. I had a friend who knew more about them than I did and was telling me, about the organization and about New York and this and that. And of course told him about Zeke Moad, who is the other tight end at the time. And he said during the 3rd preseason game, Zeke Moat left the game with a knee injury, and he was looking around like, oh my God, I'm the only other tight end on this roster right now. I don't even know if I'm going to make the team, but I guess I'm going in. And he said, Bill Parcells looked at him and said, get in there, kid, you're up. And he went out there, he ended up scoring a touchdown during that game, and that really was the beginning of his career with the Giants, And of course, he talked a lot about Parcells and what an incredible coach he was and how he always believed in him and pushed him. And, there's clips of Parcells talking about Bavaro, and he said, one of the things that he really loved about him was his toughness, and he also was an extremely physical player, that those are things that all were benefits to him throughout his career with the New York Giants. So I want to talk through some of his stats and stuff because he obviously played in the playoffs too with the Giants. So he was on the team from 1985 to 1990. And 1985, he started all 16 games his rookie year. He had 37 receptions for 511 yards and 4 touchdowns. So if you looking at those numbers, it doesn't sound like a ton, right? But the fact that he was a rookie tight end at the time, he actually was on the all-rookie team that year. I was going to say all-pro, but that wasn't until the following year. But so his rookie year, he ends up being on the all-rookie team. And, like he said, too, he wasn't really expecting to play at all. And then, he almost got lucky in the sense, which lucky is not the right word, obviously, because someone else got injured. But he got in to step up and ended up taking advantage of that playing time and played quite well. And, 1985, his first year with the Giants, they go to the playoffs, they win a great first playoff game against the Niners, and then they play the 85 Bears, and we all know about the 85 Bears, and that was it for the Giants. And he said that after that game he was obviously disappointed. He said, we felt like we deserved to be there, we didn't feel like we didn't belong. But that after that game, as they were leaving, that Parcells turned to him and said, get ready for next year. It starts now. And he said that was it. That was all the motivation I needed. I was getting ready to go for next year. And of course, we all know what happened. In 1986, of course, the Giants win the Super Bowl. He started 15 out of 16 games. He had 66 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that doesn't include his playoff stats, which were 8 receptions for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then, of course, we all know about the Super Bowl. So that year, obviously, there were so many good players on that Giants team. So on top of him being a Super Bowl winner, he was a first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. He was that for 1986 and 1987. We know that, 1987 and 88 were good years for the Giants, obviously not as great as the Super Bowl winning years. So then, of course, 1990 comes around. He plays he starts in 15 games. Now, this year he was coming back from an injury, and he talked about this as well, that in 1989 he only played 7 games because he suffered a knee injury, and he didn't really know what the next year was going to hold for him when he was coming back from this devastating injury. And he said that was kind of the feel around the building, that, you know, Parcells and some of the other guys, like, they didn't really know what I was going to be capable of doing coming back from this injury. And he said, don't you worry about me, I got it covered. In 1990, when they won that Super Bowl, he had 33 receptions for 393 yards and 5 touchdowns. Again, not a massive number. You know, he didn't put up 1,500 yards that season, but he still helped the team win games. He helped them get to a Super Bowl and, of course, helped them win the Super Bowl. And his stats in 1990 for the postseason, he had 13 receptions for 129 yards. No touchdowns. But Mark Bavaro is one of those guys that is just so beloved along Giants fans and had such a great history there. And, you know, he's funny. He's obviously Italian. And he talks about the fact that, you know, all these New Jersey Italians love him. And he feels like he fit right in with the New Yorkers and the New Jerseyans and all their Italian, you know, like behavior and things like that. And I'm Italian, so I get it. I know exactly what he's talking about. But one of my favorite stories, and this proved how diehard Italian he is, right, is this. In one of the games that he played in, he got injured and broke his jaw. Like, his jaw shattered. During halftime, this man gets his jaw wired up and goes back onto the field and plays in the second half. This is what I mean when coaches and other players, and you heard it from Carl Banks and some of the other players on that team too, is that he was built different. He was tough. He was physical. He got his jaw wired at halftime and then went back out there like nothing happened and caught the game-winning touchdown. That is literal insanity. Like, that is next level. We need to talk about the Italian part of this. So Bob Papa, who's interviewing him, you know, asking him all these questions about what that was like and this and that, says, you know, how did you keep your weight and your strength up when your jaw is wired shut and you can't eat, right? Like, are you just drinking smoothies all the time? And he goes, no, we had a blender. It wasn't like always smoothies, you know. I had a great eggplant parmesan that I blended and then drank. As an Italian myself, listen, I don't love eggplant parm. There is not a single world where I am blending up eggplant parm and drinking it. That man is dedicated, let me tell you that. So obviously earned a lot of respect from his teammates, from players. He's a legend in Giants world. And I just think the physicality and toughness that he showed is so different. To me, he's like, he could have been an amazing hockey player, because I don't know if you guys watch any hockey games, but I watch some of them here and there, and these guys are just like bleeding from their face. They've got bloody noses. They've got cuts everywhere. And then they're just like still out there playing the best that they can and like beating each other up. It's just unbelievable. And Mark Bavaro, I feel like, really fits that toughness aspect really well. And when you hear these stories about him, that he didn't give up. He fought super hard. He played really well. You know, he was an integral part of the team, especially on that offense for Phil Simms. He talks about the great connection that they had, you know, and he also talks about the fact that after they won that second Super Bowl, he was like, you know, it doesn't get better than this. This is the best of the best. I've won 2 Super Bowls. And he talks about how tight-knit and how close, and, you know, how those teams back then, the 86 and 90 team, were just so different than any other team that he's been on. And you see it, I think, when you watch those games and you see the interviews and how they talk about each other and the respect that they had for each other and the coaches. This is why it's so fun to go back. I know we're not living in the present, but when there's stuff to talk about in the present, we will. But it's just really amazing to hear that. And, you know, when they honored all of these players last year throughout these different Giants 100 events, the Legends events, the things like that, Mark Bavaro is still there. All of these guys, Jeremy Shockey, they all came in from wherever they live, and they all still really show that dedication, love, and loyalty to the New York Giants. And I think that's one of the reasons that makes this franchise so special, and why it's been so hard for all of us to sit and watch the awful displays of football that we've had to watch for the last 5 to 10 years, when, you know, people did get to live through 86 and 90 and watch these guys play and how tough they were and things like that. So anyway, I'm glad that we have some really amazing memories of this New York Giants team. So with that being said, let's talk about Jeremy Shockey, who is another New York Giants legend. He was drafted in the first round in 2002 for the Giants, the 14th overall pick. He was with the Giants from 2002 to 2007, obviously won the Super Bowl with them. He was actually a two-time Super Bowl champ, one of them with the Giants in 2007. His first year with the Giants in 2002, he was a first-team All-Pro. He also was a four-time Pro Bowler from 2002 to 2006, all his years with the Giants. His rookie year, he was also part of the Pro Football Writers of America All Rookie Team, just like Mark Bavaro was. And his career NFL stats, he had 547 receptions for 6,143 yards and 37 touchdowns. So he obviously thrived with the Giants during his rookie year. He was incredible, a great target for Eli Manning. Sometimes I forget that him and Eli played together because it feels like so long ago at this point. But he really was a huge focus for the Giants offensive passing attack. And you hear that, right? When in the first 4 out of 5 seasons, he's in the Pro Bowl and then helps the Giants win the Super Bowl. It's amazing. He signed a 5-year contract extension in 2005. It made him the highest paid tight end in pro football, which back then, you know, he was earning $26 million in 5 years, which is nothing compared to what the players make now. But he had another strong performance during 2006. He caught 66 passes for 623 yards, tied a career high with 7 touchdown receptions, and that when he was named to the Pro Bowl. One thing about Shockey is that he was versatile, so he was obviously a great receiver for Eli. Obviously great in the passing attack, but also he was really good at blocking too. Like not as much of a blocking tight end as Bavaro was, but he was known for making crucial blocks during his time. So he was a great Giant, a guy that had a really awesome career. I know that it ended a little heartbreakingly. My uncle has talked about this extensively, that they put him back to return punts and had one really bad injury, and that was it. And I think that's why a lot of us as Giants fans are scarred when we see things like Darius Slayton and Adoree Jackson being used as punt returners. Like, let's not repeat history, right? It doesn't go well for us, a team that's already injury prone. So anyway, Jeremy Shockey was also a great New York Giants Super Bowl winner, Pro Bowler, had a really great history with the Giants. He didn't spend his entire NFL career with the Giants. He did go on to play with other teams like the Saints and the Panthers, but I think he's most known for his career with the Giants because he was so successful. He was successful off the bat. Him and Eli Manning had a great connection, and he helped the Giants win the Super Bowl. So I think it's been really incredible to go through these players and talk about some of them and talk through their accolades and what they did for the team. And, the fact that so many of them contributed to these iconic Super Bowls. And look, even someone like Bavaro and someone like Shockey, they didn't put up 1,000-yard receiving seasons every single year, but they still were integral parts of the offense and were so important to the Giants as a whole winning games. So I think when we look at guys like Darius Slayton and maybe Theo Johnson, that those are guys that can be that for the Giants current. It doesn't always have to be Malik Neighbors, who's the only capable player of making plays for this team. So I think we've had some amazing tight ends over the years. I hope that we know that Dable loves the tight end position, and he loves a 2 tight end set. So that's something that I want to see more for this season, is I want to see the tight ends more utilized. And maybe this is a great segue into seeing more tight ends used for the Giants this year. So enjoy your weekend, guys. We'll be back next week talking through more history, and we'll get into training camp a little bit more because it's right around the corner. So subscribe for more.